Jocelyn, Larissa, and Robion. 30 months ago, in this same room, we bade goodbye to my father, Buenaventura Ben Garcia, my mother's husband of 65 years. Here, once again, I find it difficult for me to capture the essence of a person, this time of a beloved woman who is my mother. As it was with my father, her life is a broad canvas to behold, especially 90 years of life lived well, and words are just not enough. My mother, Cynthia, also called Ginning by family, clan, and close friends, was born in the Philippines in 1930 to parents who were both teachers. She herself became a teacher, but gave up the profession to eventually raise 7 children. She came to America with my late father in 1988 and had been a resident of the land for over 30 years. Here, she played a prominent role in the lives of her grown children and grandchildren who she helped raise in quiet service in her gentle yet strong way. As a devoted wife, she was happy to let my father's gregarious personality and intelligence shine specially before the eyes of her children, and was always supportive of him in the decisions for the family. My mother was a woman of great faith, one who believed in the power of fervent prayer, in the healing power of forgiveness, in offering up everything she did as a prayer, and lifting up all her fears and worries to God. She prayed for her children to be holy. I saw this prayer in little notes she put under Jesus and Mary's statues on her altar in her room in Florida. How did she achieve a deep, abiding faith? One of the major events of her life was the Japanese occupation in the Philippines. In her later years, as my mother's caregiver, she shared with me a foundational experience in her life. Like my dad, she was a teenager during World War II when their province of Bohol was under Japanese occupation in May 1942 to April 1945. Great was her fear of being captured by the Japanese and the ill fate that would befall any girl at that time. But greater was her trust in God's protection and the intercession of the Blessed Virgin Mary, her Heavenly Mother, and all the great saints. She told me of how on one occasion running from the Japanese to their hiding location, she was left behind, and how she had crouched around a spare patch of grass in the fields where she remained unseen by the marching Japanese soldiers, even while she readily could see them. She had a great devotion to Mary, the Rosary, and to Saint Anthony, passed on to her by her own mother, my grandmother, Lola Celine, as she was a sickly child who spent lots of time in the hospital. That incident set her steadfast in her faith, in the power of divine intercession, in her lifelong devotion to Mary, the Rosary, and to Saint Anthony. My mother has always been a great binding and guiding force in our family. It has always been her deepest desire and prayer that her 7 children understand each other, be in harmony in spite of different perspectives or points of view. Many things have happened in my mother's life: war, famine, childbearing, child rearing, great travel, and great moves. It had seemed to me that she would always be there, a calm, quiet, unassuming presence that provided a small place of tranquility in the chaotic turbulence of life. Now she is no longer here with us. I struggle in my thoughts and emotions as I ask, who would intuitively know that there's something roiling in my mind? Who but the woman who bore me in her womb and raised me to be the woman that I am today? These thoughts running in my mind, even as I know she has received the just rewards for the life of piety, love, and perseverance in the faith that marked her life on earth. Many are the precious lessons I learned from my mother, an industrious, organized homemaker who trained us to be workers. It was her fear that if she and or my dad passed away while we were still young, no relatives would take us in readily if we were a lazy bunch. Hence, she trained us to work and to love work. In the Philippines, middle-income families have lived in helps. Our helps have weekends off, so we could clean the house, wash dishes, clean windows, do all the chores except wash clothes. One day, I was complaining how my Sunday clothes were not being washed well. Briskly, she told me, if you want something done your way, do it yourself. In those days,